Thank you all so much for being here today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alyssa Vine. I'm the University Director of Credit for Prior Learning in CUNY's Central Office of Academic Affairs. This, I believe, is the fourth of our CPL professional development sessions this year. We are really excited about today's session. This is one that we have been talking about and thinking about for quite some time. And we are going to use today as an opportunity to introduce some ways that we are aware of that data is already being used to inform CPL strategy and planning by campuses and academic departments. And we're also going to have an opportunity to preview a forthcoming tool from CUNY's Office of Applied Research Evaluation and Data Analytics that will help us also begin to think more concretely about use of publicly available labor market data that we can use to be even more strategic and thoughtful and aware of the sort of broader universe of your disciplines in thinking about where and how to create credit for prior learning opportunities. I will just take a moment to say that that we know that credit for prior learning is a really important piece of the student success puzzle. We know from national data from the Council on Adult and Experiential Learning that CPL, students who earn CPL, are more likely to persist and complete their degrees, and we know that it can save them time and money. And we're beginning to see evidence of these same trends in CUNY's own CPL data. We're still in pretty early stages of data. We're only about 6 years into having a credit for prior learning policy, and we are about 2.5 years into actually really tracking CPL in a uniform way. But we know that this is something that can help our students. And we're really excited at the interest and enthusiasm that we're seeing from faculty and staff like all of you who are making time in your busy lives to learn more about it. I will just very quickly review some key points of CUNY's CPL policy. Probably many of you have heard me talk about this before, but want to make sure that we continue to make this information prominent and available. One of the most important things about the policy is that faculty are the decision makers. Faculty are the ones who really understand the content and outcomes of the material that they teach. And so their role in determining the alignment of other kinds of learning with curriculum is paramount. Also important to know that CPL credit can be awarded to fulfill major requirements. It can also fulfill gen ed requirements, or it can be awarded as departmental electives. It can be awarded as general elective credit, but that should be a last resort because that really doesn't contribute to progress of student toward their degrees. CPL credits do not fulfill local residency requirements at the college. That I'm often asked if there's a limit to the number of credits that can be awarded, and from a CPL policy perspective, from the CUNY Central CPL policy perspective, the only real limit is that they can't fulfill that the local residency credits. And then finally, and this is so important, and so I mention it and I emphasize it every time that I talk about CUNY's policy. Our policy protects CPL credits in transfer. When students transfer between CUNY colleges, those credits transfer as though they took the course at the original college, and the credits are not subject to reevaluation by the receiving college. Our policy also it centers on 4 key mechanisms. The first, standardized exams, is the only part that's really mandated. All colleges must award credit for any qualifying score on any of the 6 exam programs that are named here. The other forms of credit for prior learning that you see here are more at the discretion of the college and as they are relevant to the individual academic department. And we will be I think, for the most part, the data uses that we're talking about today can really be applicable across all of these. So I won't go into a lot of detail, but always happy to share more information and talk offline with folks about how you may think about these different categories. And I'll also put in a plug for our Brightspace professional development course that goes into a lot more detail about all of those. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, it will be circulated with the information after today's session. And I would definitely encourage you to take a look at that. It's about a 35 to 45 minute learning experience in Brightspace. All CUNY faculty and staff have access to it, and would love to make sure that we're reaching as many of you and your colleagues as possible where there's interest and need for that information. I want to share about a couple of existing tools that we have for using CUNYfirst data before we get into the labor market piece of it. This year, some of you may have participated in a session that we held a couple of months ago where we introduced a new report that our office has generated using CUNYfirst data that provides a college-specific look at existing CPL opportunities and also transfer rules from other CUNY colleges. It helps you, it's intended to help colleges really understand what's available at your institution and also the CPL opportunities that are available at other colleges and how, based on transfer rules, their opportunities could look if your college decided to adopt those. We would definitely encourage anyone here to take a look at the CPL landscape data report. We have a guidance document that can help you interpret what you're looking at. We've also created discipline-specific CPL opportunity catalogs that can allow you to see, if you're a professor in education and you want to see how are other education programs awarding CPL credit, this is a way of, it's kind of a simplified way of understanding what's available for CPL across the university. So, again, this will be circulated and you should be able to access the reports that I'm referring to here. If you have any trouble accessing those, just get in touch and I would be happy to help with that. I'll also use this opportunity to remind everyone that when an academic department decides to award CPL credit, a really important piece of having useful CPL data is making sure that the CPL opportunities that your department is willing to award are configured in CUNYfirst according to the university-wide guidance so that they become part of our CPL data and that we have the ability to track them and to report on them and to understand them in the context of the overall CUNY CPL landscape. We have a guidance memo that's linked here that you can take a look at. It's fairly technical, but it's just really important to know that once you've decided, yes, we will award credit for something. We've put the work into understanding it and evaluating it. We want to make it available to students. It really needs to go into CUNYfirst according to that guidance, or it will not be available and transparently searchable in Transfer Explorer. It won't be something that for NYSOP purposes, for CUNY Reconnect purposes, for all these different ways that we're trying to demonstrate the opportunities that exist for working adults to come into CUNY and earn credit. It really needs to exist in CUNYfirst in this format in order for that to happen. I'm going to just check. No questions so far in the chat, but feel free to raise hands or drop questions. And if you do have questions, I wanted to quickly share a couple of ways that we know of or we are hearing about that CUNY colleges are using CUNY data for strategic CPL purposes. The first is that we know that there are colleges that have implemented a CPL marker in CUNYfirst to track all students who receive any form of CPL credit. Colleges that are doing this swear by it. They think that it is, and I echo their sentiments about this, just a really effective way of starting to understand the impact of CPL on students, agnostic of whether it is for a standardized exam, a portfolio, an industry credential. So that should be something to consider if that's not something that your college is already doing in an organized form. We also know that there are some colleges that are starting to explore the use of student groups in Navigate in order to inform the way that they're advising students and the way that they're connecting eligible students with available CPL opportunities. I think that this is a practice that we should dive deeper into and understand more. And we also are hearing about efforts to really look at 2-year to 4-year transfer patterns to help understand CPL opportunities that might exist in that space. I mentioned these sort of vaguely because I think that they would make their own session. But I just wanted to sort of throw out there that the more comprehensive and accurate your CPL data can be in CUNYfirst, the more useful it can be to your department and to the college overall. But the real goal of today's session is to think about publicly available data resources that we may be able to begin to use more intentionally. And when we're thinking about the types of, and that slide was just a list of some of the types of resources that we have available, but our special guest today, who I'll introduce in just a moment, will go into more detail about many of those. But we can really start to think about the different ways that we can use this type of labor market data when we're thinking about the populations of people who are out there who don't have a college degree, that may be working in certain occupations. And from there, we can think about what those people could potentially do if they were able to get a college degree. And we can better understand the earning potential of those positions. And we also can think about where we do and do not have degree programs that could serve certain populations of people that sort of fit into that some college, no degree, or no prior college experience category. We also can think about the projected growth that exists for certain occupations and thinking about how well CUNY's offerings meet the needs of those people and how we may think about the skills and experience that those people are having in their current roles and the ways that those skills and experience may fit into existing degree requirements and ways that we could create CPL opportunities and use those as recruitment paths. With that said, I am going to hand it over to our colleague, Stephen Sheets, who's a senior researcher in the Office of Applied Research Evaluation and Data Analytics. And Stephen is the most knowledgeable person here at CUNY Central when it comes to ways that we can think about existing public data and how we can connect it to what we know about CUNY's students and CUNY's graduates and CUNY's degree programs. And we're really fortunate to have his expertise here today to help us think about ways that we can use these kinds of data resources more effectively. Stephen, I will hand it over to you, and I am here to support and assist, and I hope we can have a good discussion today about what we have available to us and also a forthcoming resource that Stephen is working on.
Thanks, Alyssa. So if you want to go to the next slide, um, I started by talking about some available data that we have already ready to go. And so you probably know that like everything you put into CUNYfirst gets stored as a data point. So anything you might ever say about a student contributes to our very rich data set of things that we know about the CUNY student population. And with that data set, we're able to combine it with some other data collections that we do. So we know a lot about our enrolled students, and we know a lot about our graduates in terms of their CUNY experience and what they're like as a CUNY student. But we also have some sources of data that tell us about what happens after they leave CUNY. So if you've heard of the National Student Clearinghouse, it's a data collection center that does information on enrollment anywhere in the United States. So if somebody starts at CUNY and goes elsewhere, we know where they go, We know if they get a degree. If somebody continues on a CUNY, we know even more about that degree that they get. So post CUNY enrollment at CUNY, outside CUNY, we have detailed information on. We can tell you all kinds of stuff about people's educational progression. In addition to that, we get a data collection from New York State's Department of Labor that gives us really good information on work within New York State. So if a graduate or if anyone who enrolled at CUNY and stops out at CUNY or applied to CUNY and stops out from CUNY works in New York State, we know about their labor outcomes. Uh, this information is publicly available to you in a dashboard I created, and I gave the link down there that'll allow you to navigate to it. And you can go through, find your major, compare it CUNY-wide, do comparisons based on age, race, uh, gender, Pell receiving status, and get information about people's labor progression in terms of wage. Uh, over 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. And so this is a really good place to start if you want to understand what do general outcomes look like for graduates from my department and how do they compare to similar departments CUNY-wide. Uh, Donna?
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't want to
No, I'd
lose.
like to be interrupted.
Okay, thank you. So are you saying though that we can actually connect the dots specifically to the student, to their work experience, as long as they stay within the state?
Yes.
Or are these generalized?
No, there is a caveat on that. The data is only available to your institutional research department. So if you don't know your IR department, go make friends with them. And yes, they can tell you, but you can't track one student. You can track groups of 10. There's
Okay,
a cell size restriction on NYSOP data that you can only display data based on 10. But if you want to group it by, if you have 10 CPL students from 1 year and you want to track their outcomes, yes, you can absolutely do that. If you want to track a cohort of graduates from a department, that's even easier. Or actually, those sometimes are less than 10. You might have to pool them together. The only catch is 10. You can't look at one individual student. You can't look at any less than 10 individual students. But yes, we have the actual unit record data on our graduates, and we can track their progression.
so this is going to be used as well, I presume, for the this expectation that the federal government is going to be starting to limit financial aid based on the jobs that students get and the earning potential. Am I presuming too
Yes,
much?
no, we're ready. I've already distributed university-wide lists of all programs that might be in danger. The good news is there's actually not that many at CUNY. The ones that are most in danger are MFA programs.
Okay. Thank
Because which makes a lot of sense because you do a comparison to like your peers in New York State, and unfortunately, actors don't make a lot of money.
right. All right. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Yeah, my pleasure. Um, so if you want to know, so we have very detailed data, unit record data that we can actually track people within New York State. We don't have that data outside of New York State, and that is what the federal government is going to be using for the OBA analysis. But we do know from our collaboration with the Census Department that wages outside of New York State are not that different. If anything, New York State wages are always higher. People tend to think that like the outcomes from New York State aren't representative because they're really good graduates are working in California, working in New Jersey, working in Connecticut. We know now from this tool that's not really true. Almost everybody stays in New York State, especially 1 year out. The only people that have are tend to like leave New York State are PhD graduates from the Graduate Center. But if you want to play around and see what the things look like nationwide, a really good tool, but you only have aggregate data. There's no unit record data, even for me. This Census LEHD tool is very, very useful, and it's just a sort of a fun dashboard to click around from. So these are dashboards that are currently available for you to go and examine outcomes for CUNY students, and you can drill down uh, pretty far. Like you can drill down uh, to the major level in both of them. One difference is with the census data, it doesn't have the actual name of the department. It has what's called a SIP code. A SIP is a generalized thing. So there's just this thing. So if you're doing just something as simple as computer information systems, some CUNY departments call it computer information systems. Some call it computer and information systems. So from a data perspective, those are going to come up as two different departments, despite the fact that they're the same thing. SIP is something that generalizes across the different ways that we name department to give it a common department. A SIP 6 code gives you that like computer information system. A SIP 4 code is going to clump it a little bit more generalized, and a SIP 2 is even more generalized. Um, I just bring that up because if you're going to look at the Census LEHD website, everything is in terms of zip code. You're not going to recognize your own department name there. Uh, so if you would like to go to that next slide, Alyssa. So what I'm here to talk about today is something which I have uh, almost ready, but which is not public yet. I hope we'll get it published within a month, no more than two. Um, we are starting to get into the business of trying to take data that exists more at a federal or a state departmental level. So we have, the Bureau of Labor Statistics at a federal level. At a state level, we have the New York State Department of Labor. And these departments are ones that go about producing estimates for how employment is going to look in the future. So the federal BLS does that nationwide and says, well, how do we expect um, uh, employment for certain categories to look in 2033? New York State does it for 2032, but people are estimating out into the future to say, what do we expect like the state of work to look like? The way that they do that is by occupation. Occupation in the generalized bureaucratic academic classification is by something called a SOC code or a SOC title, Standard Occupational Classification. These are pretty recognizable. I mean, they're pretty broad, but you can find what you want if you just have a general idea of what you're looking for. So it's pretty useful. And again, I just introduced the idea of a SIP code. What's useful for our purposes is that standard occupational classifications are linked to SIP. So there is a crosswalk that takes these occupations and these departments have put it together and say, well, so if these are the occupations, what are the majors that feed into them? So these are the SIP majors that exist. So they're useful to know what that is because it's always going to be these big broad classifications. And I have a couple example slides like in the next one, but if I could just share my screen, I'll go into the tool as it exists right now. Okay. So this is the tool as it exists. This is a Tableau dashboard. And it puts together a lot of these things I just talked about. So on the left, you have the SOC occupational title. These are just without any filters so far. So this is the entire universe of data as I've constructed it. This is New York State Department of Labor employment projections for New York City. Um, so they have provided this variable called education needed for the job. So this is going to vary by a couple things. I'll get into that in a second. And then how many people were employed in this occupational title in 2022? How many people does New York State expect to be employed in that occupational title in New York City in 2032? And what are the average wages at entry? They have a couple data points, but I thought the most useful one is to give you what do they expect an entry-level employee to be making on average. And then here this gets into that linkage up to academic programming. So what are the broad major, these SIP 6 categories that can feed into it? And then I linked it up to our own CUNY data to say, well, so if this is the broad major, what's the actual CUNY departmental major associated with that? What college is it offered at? How many people did we graduate in academic year 24-25? How many people were enrolled in fall 2025? Up here at the top, to make this a little bit more useful, I have filters that you can click on to look for something that you want. So that typical entry-level education is a filter. So I can take this and say, well, what are occupations typically associated with an associate's degree? Um, if you wanted to drill down then into like majors, you could, but you can also just go up and down. This filter on the side is saying, do we expect the employment, the number of people to be increasing, decreasing, or stay the same? So I think we all want to look at uh, employment opportunities that will be increasing in the future. Uh, and then if you wanted to then go look for a specific occupational title, you could, or you could just, roll through here. So to roll down to an example, let's do uh, dental hygienists. We have really good outcomes. I know the CUNY associate degree programs that are linked to any health profession. If you get a health degree and you work in a health major as a CUNY graduate, you are doing so well in the marketplace, you perform almost as well as a baccalaureate graduate, if not better. The story of associate graduates at CUNY is the story of health graduates. Dental hygienists are going up. We have a couple good dental hygiene programs. So if you have somebody that for some reason had dental experience and you wanted to CPL them and encourage them to pursue like a health outcome in dental hygiene, you can say, well, this is going to be an increasing field. This is what your starting salary would look like. And here are places that we could throw you to at CUNY. So if you just go through all these, you could just keep, I mean, we have a funeral mortuary. It doesn't look like anybody's in it, but this just lets you like really sift through and see what you want. Sifting through might get a little bit much. So if you wanted to not sift through and instead look for a specific occupation, you just, would set it back. And so let's do something medical. Oh, sorry, I forgot to declick. That's the only thing. So you have to declick all if you want to click one thing specifically.
Stephen,
Yes.
sorry, Amit from New York City College of Technology.
Hi.
Great data and presentation. Thank you. I do have a comment. So, this is not only helpful for the CPL purposes, but I think also for recruitment purposes, because when we have open houses, parents often accompany the prospective students, and they ask about what kind of compensation can they expect. So I think that'll be really helpful. At the department level, I'm part of the open house committee. We do that every 6 months, and this is going to be really helpful. So the more data it's in there, that's going to be really helpful because this question has been coming the last 2 years more often than I ever imagined. So, people keep asking, what can I expect to make, professor? So just sharing that. Thank you.
That's great. So this is a source for how things might look. So this wage is what was paid in 2025. They're not predicting how a wage is going to be in the future. If you want to get into like data on how your students are actually doing in a program, this might be a better tool. So we can go and find let's see, City Tech. Okay. City Tech.
Thank you.
Let's do the earnings outcomes. So okay, they always default to like programs. So this will let you know graduates from City Tech over time, 1 year after graduation, everybody was making this 5 years, 10 years out. This is for like every major. If you wanted to get into a detailed major, so again, you could look at instead nursing. And as I said, nursing, health outcomes at CUNY, big major outcomes. Uh, this data set, so this is going to be for everybody. If you wanted to get down into like a more specific cohort,
Can
these are
I
what's
can I bother
available.
you to show me hospitality? I do
Yeah,
see that. I'm
yeah.
sorry, I'm being a little
Why? I'll show everything.
weird.
That's what I'm here for. Hospitality we know doesn't do as well. These aren't
I
such bad outcomes.
No, not bad at all. But nursing, as I agree, because some of you must have read the New York Times article on nursing salaries recently. So I can imagine that's pretty much, in tandem with what I'm seeing here.
Yeah,
Stephen, we have
CUNY
a couple
nurses do
questions.
great.
We have a couple questions that I want to relay from the chat. One is a question about how often the data is updated. So when
Uh,
this is public, like what will be the
so I can
um,
tell you like the this data source is great. Uh, one thing about it is like there's no restrictions on this data. You can run around and advertise it as much as you can. This is publicly available data without strings. That is not true of the unit record data that we get from NYSDOL. Unit record data from NYSDOL is not allowed to use for marketing purposes. So I don't think that you could actually like display that to say like, hey, look at how our graduates do. Like that's a
I guess
verboten thing.
to
But
make
this
one
is
clarification.
open. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so for the Tableau, the forthcoming Tableau for CUNY data, is that also um
Publicly available data.
publicly available data? So this will be
No
when this is
restrictions on this
live.
data. Yeah, this is data that again uh you can use however you would like. Like this, comes to me like from the New York State Department of Labor website. All I have attached to it is very non-sensitive enrollment and graduation information
Mhm.
and available program information. No restriction on this data. Use it however you want.
Okay. And the what is the source data for the post-graduation earnings? Where is that number coming from?
These come from the Census Bureau, who gets data from um, their own proprietary source of nationwide income data. So this is census is great data. They're great people to work with. In terms of how it gets updated, that's a little bit tricky. Look at this cohort. They group things into 5 year cohorts for associate and master's outcomes. And they don't publish it until the entire cohort has outcomes. So we're about at the point that 2025 1 year outcomes will be available. So actually, those might not be until 27. In 27, they'll update and then they'll add here 21 to 2025. So it is slow moving, uh, but it's great data. And I advertise this because you can do whatever you want with it. The baccalaureate cohorts are updated a little bit faster. These are in terms of 3 year cohorts. So you see now you can go up through 2019, 2021, whereas the other one stopped at 2020. So this is an issue with all labor data. There is a data lag. There's no such thing as like, saying what people are making right now in 2026. There's almost no saying what people are making in 2025. That's true for every data source. If your college has like a Lightcast subscription, Lightcast is like some place that costs a lot of money to get almost the same information, and they don't give you like really any fresher data. But I love this tool. And another thing this tool tells you is where people end up. So you could drill down as far as your health professions and see where they are. But this is saying, so for City Tech baccalaureate graduates, 1 year after graduation, you can see almost everybody sticks around. Like we contribute to the local New York economy. You could even, go back to health professions and see, well, how are they doing? So again, people stick around New York City. This is something that I don't have access to. You needed census and its national perspective to be able to tell you where people are living after graduation. But great tool. Click around this. You're going to find lots of interesting information. They don't have any breaks on race, gender, Pell. We're not expecting that anytime soon, if ever. Um, so I say if you wanted to like, look more in depth in terms of what the national data is, this is what like a BLS outcome look like for one individual profession. And it takes like a lot of clicking around. You got to go through all these tabs. You get this same like job outlook information. It's national. It's just not as user friendly, and there's no like CUNY angle linked to it, which is why I really like this tool because it allows us to see uh, what the state of affairs is like at CUNY in particular. And it also like really usefully allows you to see like what educational needs are. So this allows you to, really, if you wanted to, like avoid focusing on certain things, the negative thing, you could look and see, well, what are professions that like, where you only need a high school degree that are decreasing. So don't focus on these filters. This is not like our prime area of focus.
Although for CPL purposes, I think that it's interesting to think about where people who are in certain roles and those roles may be becoming less relevant, thinking about opportunities to bring those people into degree programs and think about how to sort of launch them into other careers. I think that's where it's not as specific to the data that we have available, but I think that departments can use this type of information to think about recruitment, both in terms of the projected growth of certain occupations that you want to prepare people for, and also how to help people transition into later phases of their careers.
That's an excellent point. Um, so yeah, this data is, I think, very powerful in its outlook, both of what's happening today in terms of occupation linked to Upton to majors, and in terms of what's going to happen.
Stephen, we also have a question in the chat about whether there's consideration about program data that could potentially be pulled from ZenDirect, which is the workforce continuing ed system. Do you have a sense of how that could be, may eventually be able to be folded into the?
Uh, I have never worked with the continuing ed data. Um, I have been begging ACE for years to collect Social Security numbers, which is what I need to submit to New York State Department of Labor in order to get employment outcomes. And I think with like the transition to Zentigrade, that might be coming.
I think
But
also with the onset of Pell for Workforce, there may be that information may become more. I think there's probably people here who know more about that than I do, but yeah, that's that could be an interesting next wave of data that CUNY has available.
yeah, I can tell you, if anybody feeds me a good concrete set of SSNs, I will submit them to the New York State Department of Labor, and I will do program evaluation for you. That is like the one thing that I absolutely need in order to be able to do labor market outcome program evaluation is a good collective set of SSNs. And that being said, now that we have like, a CPL flag and CUNYfirst, if those students like are in my data set, I can do a CPL evaluation. So, fill out fill out your CUNYfirst flags, and,
Yeah.
and and you can have outcome data very easily from my office.
Yeah, so that's a really good plug for making sure that CPL opportunities are configured, and also that concept of flagging students as receiving CPL. We could know so much about what CPL does for students over time if we can track that information more completely. What other
And
questions do folks have, or maybe another example that you would be interested to have Stephen run for us here? anybody wants to jump in.
Yeah, I'm happy to drive anywhere. Actually, the reason this is not going to be published this week is there's one more tab I want to add to this, which is going to be uh, occupation, all this data, and then programs we're missing at CUNY. So if we find the broad SIP major, what are the majors that we're not offering for things that might be increasing in employment with good wages?
Could be interesting as more colleges are thinking about things like micro credentials and sort of ways of filling in sort of gaps in curriculum as they pertain to labor market demand as well. I see we have a couple of hands up. Donna and then Joan and then Alyssa.
I was just going to say, this looks like, I put it in the chat as well. This looks like a really, what I'm excited about with this tool is that it looks like it's actually user friendly. Like it's accessible to all of us, right? To be able to look at, and I could see the quality of this kind of information being used to make decision making and planning purposes on so many different levels, right? Right down to colleges applying for faculty lines, right? I mean, all kinds of decision, micro to macro. So I'm really excited about this. I hope it's up and running sooner rather than later.
Sooner. Look, it's almost ready.
It's impressive. Thank you.
And if there's anything that would be useful that's not present here, feel free to shout that out as I'm building it before publication.
Joan, go ahead.
I was curious, maybe it's only the pages that have been brought up, but I haven't seen City College. The only time I saw something that was labeled City, it was an AA in architecture, and I was like, I don't think that's offered. I looked it up, and so it was like a City Tech thing. So I don't, maybe I'm just missing it. Some of the
Here's City.
Okay.
Oh, there's an MHC theater program there.
There was an
It's
AA. There was like an associate degree listed. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just, I thought maybe I just want to make sure that like City College is giving you the data and it wasn't some
Yeah.
error on.
No, this is our enrolled program data, so it's
Okay.
very complete. Like our person
Okay.
that manages this data set is
Okay.
like it's very good.
There
It
was
just
there's no AA offered, I believe in the architecture school, like an associate degree when you search that up at City College. So I just don't know.
No, that's surprising.
But it was under, I looked it up and it was like City Tech.
Ah.
So it said City. So I just didn't know because City and City Tech, I didn't know. So anyway, that's it. That was my question. I just
And there
wanted to make sure
do
it wasn't on
exist
our end.
the program data that I use lists every program that is active and can enroll students, but does not necessarily enroll students. So if you look at this electrical engineering program at the grad center, there's nobody there. I mean, that must be like a CUNY BA program with nobody in it right now. But this is, I think, I don't want to exclude those because it says we have the potential to enroll students in this program in case you wanted to, move people that direction because there's good outcomes. But that being said, I could really add a filter for college very easily.
Alyssa, if I'm pronouncing your
Elisa, I
name.
pronounced
Elisa,
Alyssa,
we
I
probably
pronounced
had this
It's
conversation
fine.
before. I apologize.
So no, it's fine. So are these slides going to be made available with these links? Okay, after this. And then
Well, the
when
Tableau
Steve,
link is not live yet, right,
Right,
Stephen?
I understand
So
that.
that one, but yes, the rest will be made available afterward. Yes.
so when Stephen was talking about where do you apply to get your program evaluated?
You have, so I work in a department called institutional research, and every single CUNY campus has an institutional research department. Just find your IR person, get in contact with them, tell them that's what you want. That's what they're there
Okay,
for.
got it. Just I'm very interested. Thank you.
I always encourage everyone at these presentations to go make friends with your local IR person. They're skilled individuals that love looking at data and love finding solutions for CUNY.
Sassy?
Yeah, Stephen, this looks amazing. And yeah, I love how user friendly it is. When I go on the state US Bureau of Job Labor and then the federal database, it is so hard to just try to figure out, how, what is the overall topic to use and whatnot. I wonder if you said you would be happy to walk us through another example. I
Yeah.
wonder if you could walk us through and again, I don't know what the topic would be. Maybe it's like community and social service occupation. So I'm interested here in
Yeah,
behavioral.
let's see.
So people who work mental health technicians, community health workers. And my problem when I'm looking for this data is that I never know what is that overall category that they fit in because behavioral health is not usually on there, right? It'll be like social services. So
Yeah,
if you could walk us through that, that'd be awesome.
that's why I love this like little search bar at top. So I just put in mental health. And so let's just click on all these. So the sort of occupational titles you can see there's medical health services. This is one where you typically need a bachelor's, like at that entry level wage. And we have a large number of CUNY programs feeding into that. Um, Mental health, substance abuse, social workers, I know is one of those um, majors that are on my federal OBA danger list because despite the fact that we have like a bunch of programs, we graduate a bunch of people, their wage tends to be about $60,000 in the comparison wage for the federal government is just squeaking right above it. So like that's one thing about like that federal wage evaluation. If anybody doesn't know, like coming up in the most recent One Big Beautiful Bill Act was something that says all majors are now going to be evaluated based on data from how everybody is doing in New York State. And if you don't clear that threshold 2 years in a row, they're going to pull the ability to grant federal loans, which isn't a big story at CUNY. Like our students don't really take out loans, but we don't want to, have this flag on things that says, well, you absolutely can't. But one of the, honestly, university-wide, one of the biggest danger programs, in addition to MFA arts graduates, is this program. Mental health and substance abuse social workers with a master's degree are squeaking just underneath their thing, but we graduate a lot of them. Uh, but so yeah, you could just go through and see what are anything that says mental health, mental anything. You can go into that search bar, hit any occupation that you think might sound like it, and go through and find out what you're looking for. Because
Can you
I
just
wouldn't know
can
these
you just
SOC codes off the top of my head, but yeah.
can you tell me one more time, what are we looking at? Okay, employed to see like if it's growing or not.
Yeah.
That's
So these
the
are filtered just for ones that are growing. So I guess actually, no, I didn't do that filter.
oh.
Anything that you put mental health in was increasing. So
But
this is
Right.
I would say that
Mhm.
community health is not, sorry to interrupt, the community health is not on here because I don't see Hostos's community health degree listed if I'm unless I'm missing it. But
it. I would say the reason it's not going to be listed is it's not in the walkthrough to these particular majors that I put out. So again, the linkage here is I pick an occupational code. This occupational code then gets linked through the federal thing that says what are the SIP majors that feed into this occupational code. So if you don't see Hostos's program there, what that probably means is that in that database they don't think that that major leads into this occupational title. But you can go the other way around, go look for your major and see what are the occupations that do that. So I'll do that in just a second. But in terms of answering, how do you see something growing? So New York State says they have this many employed in this category in 2022. And then based on their projections, how many do they think that we don't know? This is, predicting in the future, but based on their modeling, what does the New York State Department of Labor think are going to be the employees in 2032? So let's see if we can find that other major. So this is, thank you. Like it is a good plug. do you happen to know what your zip code is for that major? Host does.
Sorry, no.
So let's see. It's, what do you think? Community health, is that one? Okay, community health and preventive medicine. That's what we're looking for. So I forgot to unclick everything again. All right, so that's not coming up. I don't know if it's not coming up because it's not linked to the major. We probably have that program. So
Do you think it's because of the increasing filter, or
I
is that
think I
not
had it,
filtered
I
anymore?
think I had it off. Yeah, so that was for all. Um, so maybe based on this conversation, a benefit for me and for you as users is I'm going to add two more filters before this is published. I'm going to add college, so you can go find outcomes at your college, and I'm going to add CUNY major, so you don't have to wonder what the 6-digit zip code is, and you can just go find your specific major.
That's
Uh,
great.
I don't know off the top of my head why that one host program is not listed here. I can figure it out after this if we want to figure out why. Uh, but this really is, as it stated, the big driving force is I start with occupation, uh, and then I add on majors. I could easily build it the other way around, where I start with majors and then I go to occupations. But you have to pick a starting point one way or the other. But I could add another tab where we look at
Yeah,
it
I
that way,
mean,
if that would be
I
useful.
just to my hypothesis would be that it's because it's part of the because it's in the education department. So it's education and then community
Ah,
health is like a subset of that would be my hypothesis is that it may be under like health education or something like that as in terms of like the SOC code.
yeah.
Um
So I mean, it's again, the sock to sit major is not perfect, but
I
that's
pasted the
that's
zip
what we
code.
have.
Toya placed it in the chat.
Yeah.
You found it. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's not a perfect tool, but it's still a powerful tool that expresses what's available now. The only other thing would be to go through and hand code every CUNY major to what we think an occupational code is available. And I'm not doing that.
We have just a few more minutes.
I,
Oh, we have the zip code here for community health is
I,
now in the chat here.
I had other
Um,
questions, but I don't know.
oh,
I
go
didn't
ahead,
want to.
Sam. Sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
shoot.
So I did have a couple things. One is, are things that are not degrees like LPN in here? That are, or are there like credentials that are part of a college degree side, but are not technically a degree, like a
So
micro
these are
credential in education, for example, like a, 12 credit sequence or something.
I mean, certificate, if it's a certificate, if it's a degree granting program, it's going to be in here. I don't know how LPN would flow into our data. I feel like LPN would be part of a department. And so you'd have to look for
Yeah.
outcomes at that department, not
Okay.
outcomes at that credential level.
Okay. And then the other question was, is there any way to, I don't know if this one or the other thing that you showed, but to show if somebody gets a degree and some sort of credential, like let's say they get, an associate's degree, but they also get, I don't know, certified nursing assistant certification or some other sort of certification.
Where are the certifications stored in CUNYfirst?
Um, Probably not. They would
Then
be in
no.
Xenograde. They would have
Yeah.
to, it would have to be.
Um, so my specialties, like what I'm able to like do powerful data with, is to dip into anything that's in CUNYfirst, pull
Okay.
it out, run an outcome on it. If it's not in CUNYfirst, that's a special collection for me. It's doable or doable for your IR department, but you have to then do something special where you take that group of students, that you have that data somewhere else to then link up to the data and try and figure out what their outcomes are. Just like the easy and the KN ones to do, without too much difficulty are the ones that are pre-stored within our databases. But everything else is knowable as long as you have it stored somewhere and it's linked up to an identifier. So it's got to be integrated, and it's got to be integrated with an EMPL ID. If there's no EMPL ID, if there's no identifier, we're never going to be able to track it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm sort of mentioning is like, so students that would have graduated or are about to graduate, and then if they just, if we're doing like a crosswalk where they do a continuing education certification as well, to kind of, like if we're offering some sort of maybe a technology certification for computer science students or something like that, and we had their EMPL IDs, could we sort of give that as like a batch or something to sort of see how those students did?
Yes, absolutely.
With both.
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
A good thought. So we're coming up on the end of our hour. I am so grateful, Stephen, for you taking the time to join us today and share this tool. I think that we've all learned a lot, and I think we're very excited about the potential that exists for this here. I think for CPL purposes, I know I have a lot of ideas. I'm sure there are others here. Look forward to continuing that conversation in our CPL community. If other people have thoughts like those that were raised here about sort of questions or ideas about the way that this tool could be functional for your purposes, your department's purposes, feel free to follow up with us. We would, really be happy to think about your ideas and see what kind of integration might be possible and useful. I will also quickly plug that we are doing a CPL, another half-day training where faculty can learn more about CPL evaluation and crosswalking tools and ways of thinking about like industry credentials and how to actually determine the alignment. That's going to be taking place March 6th. I will be sure to circulate the registration link for that. And in general, thank you all so much. Another round of applause for Stephen and this amazing work that he's brought to us today, and really look forward to seeing this live within 2 months, which is going to be amazing. So thank you. And we will be sure to follow up and share it once it is live. So thank you, Stephen. Thanks everyone for joining. Everyone have a nice weekend.